Welcome to the Build Your Reiki Business podcast. I'm Christian of Standing Stones Healing, founder of the Reiki Business Collective and creator of the Build Your Reiki Business program, sending blessings and best wishes to your Reiki business. Greetings, welcome, and thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Build Your Reiki Business podcast. I'm Christian of Standing Stones Healing, so honored and excited to have you here with me. So thank you so very much. The podcast has recently surpassed 10,000 downloads, and so I want to say thank you all so very much for tuning in. It is a true honor to bring you this podcast every week. And so to all of you, I want to say thank you so much for listening. I also want to encourage you to please join us for the Reiki Business Summit this November 22nd to the 25th. It's going to be an amazing live 4-day event full of Reiki business topics. You'll be able to learn from Reiki business leaders like Andrea Kennedy, Colleen Benelli, Karen Cagg, Pam Allen LeBlanc, Mary Raposo, and Michaela Daystar. You'll also have the opportunity to connect with other Reiki practitioners who are considering starting a Reiki business or have a Reiki business to make like-minded friends and get encouragement and support for your Reiki business journey. You can learn more and save your early bird spot at standingstoneshealing.com/summit. Thank you. Slowing down in our Reiki business is something that is important, even though it's not something that we might think much about, and even though it might be something that we feel that we can't do. You know, how many of us on our life's journey are always rushing, always have something going on, and feel like we don't have the time to take time out. You know, with our modern way of life, we always have things going on. We always have plenty to do, places to go, and things to be attending to. The way of life that we have now is, of course, quite different from how life used to be, where there was time built in for rest and repose. Now, of course, I want to take a step back here and acknowledge that this was not always the case for everyone, and it truly was context dependent. What I mean by that is, let's admit that depending upon your station in life, you had more time for rest and repose than others. This is still true of our modern day society. But if we look at, for instance, the invention of the light bulb, which allows us to work later than our ancestors used to work. In that way, in that very simple yet very important and impactful way, our life, our modern life, is quite a bit different from how the lives of our ancestors were. And so, if we look at it in terms of just the ways in which our modern life is structured, in something as simple as artificial lighting, then we can see how our life may be, quote unquote, busier than the lives of people in the past. One thing that also impacts our sense of busyness is the fact that the amount of information that we might consume in a day is drastically higher than the amount of information that people would consume in the past. And so what I mean by this is that throughout our day, we are receiving all kinds of information that we didn't receive before. Information in the form of advertisements, newspapers, television, radio, internet, phones, notifications, all of the dings and bells and whistles. This is information that people in the past didn't have to deal with and didn't receive. And so just the sheer volume of information that we are exposed to on a daily basis has indeed increased. Now, for me personally, when I first heard about this, I was skeptical. Typically, when I first hear about anything new, I'm skeptical. But I was skeptical. And I said, information is information. And so even though maybe our ancestors, people in the past, weren't receiving a constant flux of bells and whistles and notifications, information was still being received in terms of information from the wind, information from nature, information from the sun. And so there was still all kinds of stimuli that people were receiving. And I believed that we weren't receiving less information, just different information. But after having given the subject some thought, I do realize that yes, we do receive more information in the form of news, in the form of knowledge that people in the past did not receive. And so I can spend an hour on the internet and learn more, receive more information in that 1 hour than our ancestors might have received in a week. And again, by the definition of information, of course, like I said, information can be things like the way in which an ant crawls across the ground. That's information, and that's stimuli, and that's something that we're learning, right? But I think we do have to admit on some level that watching the progression of an ant or digging a hole in the ground is a different kind of information and a different kind of stimulation than receiving information that we might consume in a YouTube video. And so, yes, I can see how we just simply have more information coming to us than people in the past did. And so what this all means is that our way of life can in many ways be tiring and can in many ways be challenging for us, especially in terms of this always on kind of mode. In the past, when there were no artificial lights, our ancestors stopped working when it was dark, and they went to bed when it was dark, and they weren't staying up all hours of the night surfing the internet because they couldn't. And so it's important for us to notice how our modern day way of life really does encourage us to work more and longer, and how we might even feel like we should. Because if we have the magic of artificial lights that say, hey, we can work when the sun is down, or we have the magic of computers that say, hey, you can write your book without candlelight, then it's important for us to recognize the impact that this has on us, with the feeling of the need to be working even past normal, quote unquote, normal working hours. Now, because of this kind of pressure, and yes, indeed, I will call it pressure, because I think that we've gotten to a point in our culture, and when I say in our culture, I'm speaking here of dominant Western culture. Of course, other cultures are much better at slowing down than our dominant Western culture. But we can oftentimes feel pressure to do more and to push forward and to work harder and longer in our dominant Western culture. And so we can feel this pressure, and we can even feel this pressure in our Reiki business. Of course, Reiki as a system is really all about slowing down, isn't it? It's all about mindfulness. It's all about accepting the unfolding of life's journey and knowing that things like healing and growth take time and they unfold in their own time frame. And yet, so often on our Reiki business journey, we are impacted by those cultural and societal pressures to push harder and to do more and to feel that pressure to work more. This is why in my Reiki business, I take certain time during the year where I purposefully slow down on my Reiki business journey. And I purposefully do less, even while I have a lot going on. One of the times when I purposefully take more time for myself and to slow down on my Reiki business journey is the spring and the fall. These are times that I intentionally take more time when I slow down in my Reiki business and I purposefully do less. Now, I will say that I have success with this to varying extents because I always have a lot going on in my Reiki business. But let me give you a for instance of what I have going on in my Reiki business right now and how I'm purposefully stepping back. So June is always a great month for me. I love June. And I love June because it's my birth month. And I love June because it's the time of the solstice. It's also a wonderful time often in terms of the weather here in central Pennsylvania before it gets too hot and humid in July and August. And so I like to take time in June to do more hiking, to get out more, to enjoy the weather a little bit more and to spend more time outdoors connecting with nature, connecting with myself, and celebrating during the month of June. I also like to do this in October when the weather is similar. It's cooling off. It's not so hot and humid. The leaves are turning. It's a wonderful time to get outdoors. And so I like to take purposeful time in my Reiki business during the months of June and October especially to step back and slow down. And so I'm taking some purposeful time to step back and slow down at this time, even while I've got plenty of things going on, plenty of things like working on the Reiki Business Summit coming up in November, and things like working on my book, Reiki Business Ready, which is almost ready, still almost ready. But I'm also purposefully blocking off more time in my calendar to not see appointments and to not have appointments of any kind, whether that is card reading or Reiki or coaching, whatever it might be, blocking off more time on my calendar to slow down and take a step back. I think this is important for us to do mindfully and with intention so that we're not coming to a point of burnout on our Reiki business journey, so that we're not coming to a point of feeling overwhelmed on our Reiki business journey, but rather we're making sure to take time for ourselves on our Reiki business journey, whatever that might mean. You know, there's so much lip service that is done to quote unquote self-care. Now, I've got a podcast episode on self-care, and I have to admit that I'm not a big fan of the term self-care because I think that it's almost like something that it's become a buzzword in our society, and it's become something that we have to make sure to do, but that it often comes in the form of consumerism. And it often comes in the form of treating yourself by buying a new product or getting some kind of service done to you, rather than really doing some deep slowing down that I think is really so important to us as human beings. When I talk about slowing down on our Reiki business journey, what I'm really getting at is that intentional time that we take in which we are not coming at it from a standpoint of, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed and overwhelmed, I need some time for self-care. It's much more a proactive kind of approach and much more an intentional kind of approach where we say, you know, I have all kinds of things going on and I'm going to purposefully slow down. I intentionally, personally time that slowing down with the seasons to say, I know that I really like the weather in June. I really like the weather in October. And so I am going to slow down my Reiki business schedule during those times so that I can spend more time enjoying the weather, enjoying the seasons, and using that time to connect with nature and to connect with myself and to celebrate my own life's journey and my own Reiki business journey. Now, some of the ways that I like to use to slow down, I mentioned getting in touch with nature and going out hiking or camping. But I really like to use my 7-way path practices to slow down. And so, of course, Reiki is so very powerful for helping us to slow down. Of course, the system of Reiki is here to help us slow down with practices like meditations and breathing exercises, Joshin Kokyo Ho, Hatsurai Ho, and reciting the principles, and all of those very important and wonderful and powerful practices of Reiki. And in addition to Reiki and using Reiki, self-Reiki, and all of those wonderful ways of the system of Reiki for slowing down, I have my own set of 7 practices that I've been using for years to help me intentionally slow down. And those are what I call the 7-way path. And so I like to do things like practice gratitude. Gratitude really helps me to slow down. And so mindfully, intentionally practicing gratitude really is a powerful way, I believe, for helping us to intentionally slow down in our lives. So, gratitude is number one. Number two is taking some time to clean. So, cleaning, I believe, is a powerful uh, practice for helping us to slow down, clearing and cleaning clutter, and taking good care of our homes, our possessions, and mindfully caring for them. And so during times of slowing down, I like to clear and clean and declutter. Number three, of course, is nature and getting in touch with nature. One of the things that I've been doing lately is that I've been trying to use artificial lighting less in the evenings and relying more on natural lighting. Now, that's easier to do at this time of year than others, when, of course, we do have more natural lighting and the days are longer as we come up to the solstice. But I'm trying to use less artificial lighting in the evening. I am intentionally powering off my devices earlier. I've always been mindful of screen time in the evenings and not using screen time for at least an hour before bedtime. I'm better at this some days than others, I have to admit. But that's something that I've been doing more intentionally lately as part of my slowing down right now. So I've been mindful of my artificial lighting use in the evenings. And it's also helped me to get a little bit more in touch with that ancestral rhythm of how our ancestors did not have artificial lighting to power themselves and their devices past the call of the sun. Number four of the ways that I work to intentionally slow down with the 7-way path is walking. I am a major proponent of walking, and walking is so powerful for slowing us down. And so if we are looking to slow down, I think that going for a walk and leaving aside the devices and just walking with ourselves, by ourselves, and walking with our own thoughts is indeed a powerful way to slow down. And I like to use walking for my Reiki business to think and to come up with some creative thoughts. You know, going for a hike is a really powerful way for me to slow down, while at the same time to still be working on my Reiki business, because during those times I will have some really great creative thoughts that come to me. As a matter of fact, the Reiki Business Summit came to me at the end of one of my morning walks. And so we can use slowing down as a way to really increase our productivity and our creativity, and to be quote unquote working even when it seems that we are not. Number 5 way that I like to slow down is with journaling. I am a big proponent of journaling. I think it is a very powerful practice for helping us to process our emotions and heal and reflect. And so journaling really helps me to slow down. And so at this time of year, I might do more journaling. Now, I will say, full disclosure, currently I'm actually doing less journaling than I typically do. But I am a big believer in the power of journaling to help us slow down, and it may very well help you to slow down on your Reiki business journey as well. Number 6 is ritual. Ritual is powerful, and yes, indeed, at this time of year, when I am intentionally slowing down, I will be conducting rituals, and I'll be conducting rituals that coincide with my birthday and the solstice as a way to help me reconnect, as a way to help me intentionally slow down, as a way to help me to be more mindful. So, ritual is very powerful. There's so much more to say about ritual. Maybe that would be a great podcast episode, Ritual for Your Reiki Business. And number 7, way that I really like to slow down is through meditation or stillness or silence. Now, I will admit in my slowing down period right now, I've actually been doing less meditating than I typically do. I typically meditate every day, but for this period of slowdown on my Reiki business journey, I've actually been meditating a little bit less. Okay, a lot more less than I typically do. There are definite reasons for that. One reason is that one of my cats loves to sleep on my meditation cushion, and every morning at meditation time, there is my kitty sleeping very happily and comfortably on my meditation cushion, and I just don't have the heart to move him. The second reason is that because I've been putting in more work on my book in order to move that process along, I've been doing that typically in the mornings during my typical meditation time. And so even though I'm saying I'm slowing down on my Reiki business, I am actually speeding up in some ways, particularly with working on that Reiki Business Ready book. But writing itself is a slowing down kind of process in which we can take time to work through our thoughts and our reflections and to get them down on the page, rework it, revise it, and that whole process of writing is itself a slow process. And so even though I've been doing more work on my book and therefore in many ways more work on my Reiki business, it still is a slowing down kind of process for sure. But do you slow down on your Reiki business journey? Do you take purposeful, intentional, slow down pauses on your Reiki business journey? Let us know in the Reiki Business Collective. Join us and tell us all about it at facebook.com/group/ReikiBiz, or drop it down below and let us know. Do you slow down with intention on your Reiki business journey? I believe that slowing down is important for us so that we can take good care of ourselves in order to take better care of our clients, our students, and anyone else we might serve in our Reiki business. I'm sending so many blessings and best wishes to your slowing down and to your Reiki business. Thanks for tuning in to the Build Your Reiki Business podcast. Please like, share, subscribe, and send to a friend. Learn more about the Build Your Reiki Business program at standingstoneshealing.com/build. Sending blessings and best wishes to your Reiki business.